All right, hello again. This is Ben Hitchcock Cross talking to you today. I've got two things that I want to talk about. How I'm going to synthesize them, we'll find out together. Um, Number one is simply this. I guess this is all sort of a flashback to the same sort of time. I went to college in Santa Fe, as you know, and they had the worst public radio uh, that I can remember. I mean, basically two community stations, one the sort of official public radio station of the state capital, um, and then another community station from the College of Santa Fe. And we were frequently had to go to the um, New Mexican radio, like local station, for music, for just like radio at the time. Because remember, this is like Napster time, but then you still had to have a computer with those two speakers, and it really wasn't the case that anybody had a uh I mean, you might have one 98, 97. You might have had one, but I don't know. Anyways, the radio was one of the single biggest parts of my life. I could certainly by 2004 and counting in Wisconsin, I could tell the time of day within less than 4 minutes, just based on listening to the radio for about 5 seconds. Um, Now, this is, of course, the public radio, public radio, public radio. I guess it was really the takeover of public radio by other forces, by non-public focused forces that kind of did that. Man, every time I liked the show, they would kind of take it away from us. Uh, so back to that, I do recall that the Santa Fe stations had the Writer's Almanac every morning. If you remember, this was Garrison Keillor's sort of other show where he would give you sort of this update of the news, theatrical, important sort of cultural events that had happened on that day, and then of course a poem. And and Garrison Keillor being Garrison Keillor. And that it's back now, thank goodness. You can get it online, and they've sort of updated it per the day. He's not, he got canceled. He was one of the first people to get canceled, which is always to my lasting regret. Um, and I'm sure that I can easily think of that Sony white branded flattish radio with the black dials that I had radios everywhere in the bathroom. Uh, Dingy old bathroom in this freezing Adobe house. People who say that Adobe is um, cool in the summer and warm in the winter, I think are completely wrong. And in fact, uh, by my experience, and of course, there's this stucco, we'll get whatever. It's cold all the dang time. So I'm contrasting this event, or I guess I'm Madelining this event with my college thesis, which is more or less simply this. As we've discussed here on this channel, the great virtue of St. John's College, Santa Fe, and presumably St. John's College, Annapolis, is that the idea is paramount, the people are incidental, and that the personality is incidental. And what do they try to mean by that? That we examine everything from here's a perfect example of this. We studied for months Ptolemy. What's the Ptolemaic geometry? And went from like we did a lot of cogito ergo sum and QED uh, for the point of I mean, I learned more about geometry than I probably ever hoped to know, but it was all in sort of quest of what is the Ptolemaic geometry all about. It's about accounting for the rotation of the heavenly bodies when the heavenly bodies are supposed to move in perfect circles because everybody knows they're gods, and gods, of course, move in perfect circles because circles are perfect and gods are also perfect. So that must be the case. somehow the perceived data that they had at the time showed that these godlike beings, bodies or what have you, were moving as ellipses. Um, so what do you do? What you don't do is criticize the gods. What you do is create a math system to adjust for retrograde movement. I'll leave it at that. So we did another famous thing you study at St. John's is phlogiston. What is phlogiston? This sort of crazy scientific theory that just what was it like that accounts for the volume in space of like what is I think no it was what when you burn stuff what happens to all the stuff I think that's what it was. Jeez Louise. Man, in my brain now it's just categorized away as silly outdated theory, but the point was we learned that why because not just because it was silly outdated theory but it was part of the progression and in fact mentioned in I would say one of the core texts when you get into that area of physics. Okay, perfectly fine. I've confessed to you all that physics was never I mean sure motions and uh Newton and that stuff, is one thing, but the sort of no, that's I don't want to use the word physics. I would say the measurement data make keeping was never my strong. Moving on. This is all just bringing up this second thing here that I'm, I guess, synthesizing it through Madelining is by my college thesis, which is more or less this. Again, uh, we went through all of these seemingly bizarre theories. Um, and we did spend some time on Marx. Um, just trying to think of what else. It's that sort of second half of senior year kind of is a blur. They're not for obvious reasons, but probably for more complicated ones. But hey, um, so we did clearly spend, I think, probably 6, which is maybe it's not 12 or like it's not Kant level time here, but it's an investment. And I think my whole point, because this is something that I was came there to write on, but my whole point, I think, ultimately was this: um, this school, we'll just say as a whole, without personifying it with anybody, is able to view everybody else out there under the sun as their idea and not the person. But as a school, as a college, we are not able to do that with Marx, categorically speaking. Complete failure. And the how you defend a paper there as a senior is there's a committee and they come at you and challenge you. And I, I think the entire point of the challenge that came up, which was, I'm sure I was astoundingly clever at the time. Um, and it absolutely sounds like me to have laid this whole trap, waited for this whole trap to spring, uh, was that their answers and their challenge proved the point, which was that they were able to talk about really anything else under the sun, um, other than Marx, as as the idea, and not the because I mean I think the answer at that time, 98, is well Marx is wrong because of the Soviet Union. Now, I safely am going to cabin that somewhere else if that's true or not true, or not if that's true or not, but whether the evidence fits the crime, as it were. I'm going to just focus here on the simple question of simple point that that argument undercuts the whole philosophy of the discussion, the school, and I think the reason for um, the hope for moving forward on that in the first place. Um, kind of sounds like me is to set up something. Yeah, that kind of that seems like something I might have done. Um, but you get the point here is that there are some things, uh, when you set out specifically to say that there's everything's on the table, um, you really do have to be careful with um, taking for granted that you're always doing that you're succeeding and universally in that mission. I think that is what that danger was, which hopefully I can synthesize with the canceling of Garrison Keillor, which was clearly the point to begin with the whole time and always was. um, the allegation with him, and I've never been clear on that, but it was very early on in, let's say, Me Too, that he was canceled for some allegation that, again, not very clear on what that was. And I'm having trouble, always had trouble with my St. John's philosophical background on it's the philosophy, not the personality. Because, and let's think about why that's the case. Because I'm a drowning person and a boat is floating by. Do I care if the person who made the boat is a good person or bad? In fact, don't I really care that that boat is getting me where I need to be? And that's something that I can use? I think those are the whole strength of that philosophy is that you are approaching things not necessarily uh, on what is their historical context, but what is their utility. And that, in my mind, there's no question that the cultural value of Garrison Keillor's work outpaces anything that could be. I mean, I guess that's fair to say, and we'll just put it like this: if Garrison Keillor was convicted of a heinous murder, would that invalidate all of his work? I That's the wrong way to frame that. If Garrison Keillor committed a heinous murder, does that mean that Prairie Home Companion is no longer of value to me? And that I can easily answer that I know the answer is no, that's not the case. That the cultural value to me of just Lake Wobegon stories, for example, uh, is greater than the value of Garrison Keillor as a person. I think that those are all fair statements. So hopefully I have added to these last 14 minutes of your life here. But that's where I'm at. And that's my synthesis. So, as you well know, we always like to end on a high note. I knew we'd pull it off at some point, and I think we'd got there sooner rather than later. But that is my remembrance of things past on Garrison Keillor to the Sony radio to my college thesis. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll keep you informed.